Hello everybody, this is Kevin Jenner Productions, back again for another video. And in today's video, it's going to be a little bit different. Today I'm going to do something that I have never done before. Now recently I have been getting into the Pennsylvania Reading Seashore lines modeling. I've been modeling up a bunch of locomotives. I've got 3 engines currently, this is number 4. And all of those engines have been AS16s. And one of the most incredible things about them is that with such little work can you detail a really nice piece. So I have a Pennsylvania Railroad 6000, a 6012, and a 6031. If I get all this out of the way. Move all this out of the way. Now we have a 6013. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to fully detail this and fully put it together for your viewing pleasure. So it's not a very complicated process, but I think as a reference for anyone who might go ahead and customize one of these engines, I think it's very important that we do that. So let me take the engine out of its box. It's in perfect condition. Ooh. And there's the locomotive. Now, let me bring the camera around. There is a little bit of work that has to go into an engine, so. And let me pull up my S12. You can see already what I have to do. I have to paint the handrails yellow on the edges and apply the details. So let's do it. And before we start, we're going to just test the engine to make sure it's running, and then we'll go ahead. Sorry, my camera messed up. Very good. Alright, so now on to the customization. Okay, so got my workspace all ready to go. Got all the detail parts, which is what you're going to need to put the kit together. And to do this model, I'm going to use a gloss yellow paint marker for the handrails. I've got super glue in case something needs to be put back on. I've got oil because this is a used model and it probably needs to be lubricated. And I've also got some epoxy. Now epoxy is not normally used, but I'm going to use it to attach the bell on the front of the engine. Now I also have the instructions, and I also have a reference image of the real 6013 to go off with, basically just to show me the area where I need to work. So I just need to kind of copy it. Now I'm not going to do the pole bars or anything like that, but I am going to try and get the handrails and the footboards. But apart from that, I also have an example of a loco I've already customized. Here's Pennsylvania Reading Seashore Line 6000. So with that all out of the way, let's begin. I'm going to time-lapse everything, but I'll go along the way. I'll do some cuts and make sure to show you this process. So let's begin. Alright, so what we're going to do first, grab a screwdriver, lift the loco upside down, disassemble the locomotive.
Now on these Stewart locomotives, there's only 2 screws that are essential. Sorry if you notice, there's 2 screws.
So you need to take those out and put them aside. And then the engine's body should come off. And this is the Kato drive, so you have to be a little more careful. But they should come out like that. And we had just had the weights come out. Some of the weights just fell out. Put the weights aside. So we have our chassis. Not much we need to do on this itself. The chassis is actually the least worried, but what we will do is we're going to take our oil and we will just give those bearings a little drink. There's 8 points I do on the engine. This is sewing machine oil. Boom. Oh, it's in the way. Okay, Now we're going to put the chassis aside. We're going to let the oil sit and get in there. So now we're going to do some painting. So what I'm going to do first is dust the model off. First I'm going to get the footboards. I'm going to use a paint marker, and you don't need much to do it. Just notice I have a picture in the background, so just try and remove the excess. Looks quite good. I'm going to put another layer on. And so it should look like that. I'm going to repeat this process on the other side.
Sorry, there's still some styrofoam. Just...
Alright, now that that's dealt with, I'm going to put that aside. Now we're going to do the handrails, which I'm only going to do one set, and then I'm going to time lapse it. But we're going to remove them from the package. Nope, fell into the floor. There they are. You want to be very careful not to lose anything, because if you lose anything, you're screwed. You're metaphorically screwed. So let me just pick up the camera. So where you would like to do your work is you would like to have, for PRSL specifically, you want to get it right here, right before the area. So I'm going to paint it real quick, and I'm going to show you, just so you can learn from this. But that is, the basic area is right there. You want to, of course, use your paint marker, and I know my hand's going to get in the way, but I'm going to be quick. This is why you also have a paper towel, because you have to kind of get your marker. And you don't want to paint the whole bar. You only want to paint the about half of it. And so now it's done. Now it should look like that. This is the front one, so it'll go right there on the locomotive, but that is where you should be if you're doing this. You want to be take your time, and I've done this several times. I've done this already, so I kind of have an idea for how to do it. So let me go paint the rest real quick, and watch. So one thing I couldn't do on the other model is I couldn't get the other side. Just gonna do the exact same thing.
But you also have detail light. You want to be very careful that you don't want to touch anything that you don't want to touch.
Hey, that's good. Yes, it looks quite good. Sides need to be worked on a bit. Sides. Okay. Alright, that's done. So let's do the other one. Let me pull the other one out. I'll do those real quick, and then we'll let these dry. So anytime you get just the injection piece, the thing that holds the parts, just throw that away. It's garbage, unless you want to use that for scraps or anything. That's up to you. So how I got into PRSL was actually through a friend who introduced me to it. A member of at the Westers Depot. He got me into it, and I was very interested after a show I did. Just by maybe his simplistic modeling for it. You know, he wasn't a detail Nazi or a rivet counter, but he definitely knew what he was talking about. Okay, looks quite good. It's gonna do this side real quick. And I know you probably couldn't see because of my hand, but you can see that I'm doing that area. So we'll let those dry real quick. Excuse me. All right, so I think we're gonna change the table a bit. We're gonna work a little differently now. We're gonna do some application of the details. So we're gonna put this pack on. So we have the guardrails, and where that goes on the locomotive, that actually goes, that's right there on the engine. I don't know if you can see it. Might be a little distorted on camera, but there is a handrail, and I can also probably show it on the completed 6000. So we're gonna do that. I don't need any glue at the moment, but I'm probably gonna possibly need it. So I'm just gonna come up close. You want to be very gentle with the parts as you remove them from the blister, the mold, I guess you could say this is the mold. But you have your two railings right there. Throw your excess out. And what I'm going to now do is I'm going to, the weights go right here. So they go up here. We'll put those back when we assemble the locomotive. But so, you can't see it. I have to do this while filming, or kind of. Now the next bit is this. So as you can see, that's how let me just pop that up. So that's what I've got so far. And you can see that it's not fully applied. Oh, just touched the other one by mistake, but we're just gonna, should do this two hands. You should really use two hands when you're putting the handrails on. And probably someone's gonna ask why I'm not using the instructions, but simply put, I don't need them. I've done this already onto another AS16. There we go. So that's what it should look like on that side. Now some people have the letterboard and they'll put the letterboard on the diesel, but I don't have a letterboard for this model, so I'm not going to apply it. So I'm going to flip the engine over and do the exact same. We're just going to put the engine onto its side. Now, it goes on the other way actually. I'm putting it on wrong. Nope, it goes on the other way. Silly, oop, I dropped it. Oop. Hello me, hello world. But, so we're going to put that on. And what this part is called the short hood handrail. The right hand side. So this part is actually used for the crews, because on the AS16s they didn't have handrails. They had, well, they did have handrails. They didn't have I just realized my hand's probably getting in the way. But you have to press these with your fingers. You don't want to use like a blunt amount of pressure. You just want to use enough just to get it on. What I'm probably also going to do after I finish this engine, I'm going to probably use a bit of snippers, and I'm gonna snip off the excess plastic that's on here. I'm not gonna do it on camera because it's a little bit of a struggle, but
I also just realized I forgot something. Alright, so that's on. We'll press.
okay. Alright, so the engine's now looking like this. Looks kind of good, but we're missing something, and I completely overlooked it. These AS16 kits don't usually come with headlights. They don't come with bezels for the lights, or I should say that. They don't come with them.
So I'm going to use, if I can find it, I have some Athearn parts that I'm going to use. I'm just going to look for those real quick. I'll do a quick jump cut when I find them. They're probably sitting somewhere in front of me and I can't see them. Those parts.
We'll deal with those later. So I'm going to need to switch my reference picture because I am following a reference. I just used a Google. So I need to now work. I'm just going to get these from the PRSL group. So the next part we're going to probably work on is this here. If you can see my mouse, that is the next area that we have to work on. We'll deal with the bezel in a little bit, but right now we're going to pull out these
Stir.
and you can see that these need a little trimming. Well, you can't tell, but they have a little bit of flash on them, so I will do the same thing I'm going to do with the upper parts, but I'll do it off camera, so I'll probably have to touch that up when I'm done. But you know, that's my issue, but that should come with the kit. So many kit builders will tell you be very careful with the flash. Make sure you remove flash. And this is all a rough and ready product. This is actually going to obviously get touched up. Like, I'm looking at the handrails and they're not perfect. Alright, that's all right. So these have the same problem, but that should also cover the majority of our bits, that we are working on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt the camera. I'm going to show you exactly where I'm doing it. So, working off my guidance image, I'm just gonna flip it now. I'm gonna let that dry for a sec, and we're gonna do just the same to this part. I think you're only seeing my finger this time. Some people might debate the color, but this is a really good color. It matches so well, and it really does match what the end product is, so close that it's pretty amazing. So we're gonna flip these over. I have tweezers nearby. Where are they? I had tweezers, but my desk is such a mess of junk. Not junk, just stuff. But we'll just pick these up with my hands. They're not that hard to pick up. These aren't microscopic. So as you can see, it doesn't even look like we've worked on them now. But oh. So we're going to take this. I'm only going to use my finger. I'm just going to go with the sides, and then I'll just trim that up when I finish it. Now you notice there's a little bit there, and that's okay. It's obviously not going to be like 100% perfect, but definitely this is a little harder to do while I'm recording. Normally I would listen to music and I would do this, But I want to show you how to do this, because if someone ever gets inspired to do this, then... And I can also always clean that off. This paint comes off kind of easily, so I'm just going to use a little toothpick. Probably take them off. But that doesn't look quite half bad. I think I'm going to pick that up, and yeah, that looks very close to the original. So we're going to put that aside for now and let that dry. And the next piece we're going to do is we're going to take this part here. We're going to actually move our reference image. And this is going to be a little interesting, because you'll notice that on the real 6013, that handrail it doesn't even go halfway. So let me flip this. And you can see the stain of... You can see the stain of... So where you want to get it this time is actually only here. You only need to get it in one area. So let me do that real quick. I'm not even going to bother showing you, but... Oh, that's painting all done. So, with that out of the way, those are all the parts that we have that are painted. So what we're going to do next is, on the original kits, you could take these... Oh, you can still. We're going to pull the other weights out. And I'm going to remove... Just realized this is a double-ended... This is a one-sided loco. But what I will do, what I was going to do is I'm going to attach the air tanks. Now, they look perfect already. So, thankfully the air tanks are one direction, and that goes in like that, so you should have it looking like that. So your air tank should sit flush. Very simple to do. Very easy, but these come out quite... But you will have, if you're working on AS16s, you will notice that the air tanks are going to come out. They come out occasionally, so just be prepared for that. I'm going to have to repaint that, actually. Touch that up. Just a little touch up. So I'm going to have to probably touch the paint up slightly. But you're going to attach your air tanks. I'm just doing this off camera just so I can get my hands in there and I can see what I'm doing. So on this kit, they don't actually come like pre-done, but that's what you should have. And you can see that now this will go underneath the duct, underneath the motor block. So you also want to make sure you align this correctly so it looks correct, because on the prototype the air tank is right there on the prototype. So yep. So next then we'll do the grab bars, which is what the proper term, I think. The lift bars. No, excuse me, that was incorrect. The lift bars. And as you can see, we're not that we're pretty much almost done with the kit. We just have to put these parts on. So for the lift bars, they are quite small parts. You can see the lift bar is quite tiny, but it works. So I'm just gonna do this off camera just so I can like see the holes, because the holes are really small. So that's what your lift bar should look like on the locomotive. It's quite a hard to do fit. In fact, I see I have to do a little bit more. I'm going to show you that. Got to put a little bit of pressure to get that in there. Well, that's now flush. So that's what you now want with your lift bar. You should be able to see it. And what this usually does on the locomotive is it will lift up the coupler. It will lift it. Basically, it's attached to a chain that will go into the cord, into the knuckle. So you can't run these with the... Now these aren't the parts that are the most infamous for falling off. On your AS16s, you'll find that on AS16s, I find that on one of them at least I had another AS16, but it's no longer going to be used. It's going to be used for parts now because I have these. And if anyone remembers those videos that I did, you'll remember that 6013 was the subject of what I was going to turn the engine into. There's no need to do that anymore because, well, I've got a 6013. Boom. Okay. That's what we've got currently. So, next I'm going to do some... Now, the bell is the most infamous part on the locomotive. So what I'm going to do is I actually have an old coupler board, and this is where the epoxy comes in. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mix a tiny amount of it. I'm just going to get rid of that right there because I just don't want any issues, but I'm only going to mix a tiny bit. And I'm only going to put a small drop onto the thing because the epoxy will... Oh! Comes out fast. Careful. And you must be very careful when epoxying anything, period. So... Open it just schmutz. Okay. And you must be very careful when working with epoxy because if you stick something with epoxy, it's not going to come undone. But we're going to mix this. And I'm going to use a little bit. And I'm only going to apply it to the bell. I'm not going to apply it to the bodywork. So you can see that I've... Oh. Going to put that down. Going to turn to the locomotive. Got the bell, if I can put it in. And you'll notice that that doesn't even look bad. That looks flush. So, and that's the most difficult part. The other part I'm going to attach is the horn, and that goes on backwards. But for that I'm going to use super glue, and then I'm going to attach the handrails, and then the engine's done. And that's pretty much all there is to it then. But I'm taking you through every step just so I can educate, and if I ever need a reference something I did, I can. But I think we're going to leave the horn off for now because I'm going to trim it and attach it, but you'll probably see it on the engine in a future video. But I'm going to probably work on the bell separately. But we're going to remove our epoxy, from the area. So we're just going to put that down here because I'm going to throw that out anyway. And I'm just going to wait 5 minutes. As you can see, that looks quite good. So the bell is curing. I'm not going to touch it really much because you want that to cure. Another amazing thing is it goes on clear, so it will not even look bad from a distance. But while we're on the subject let's talk about lights. Now, if I can find them, they're somewhere in this room. They might be on top of something. Oh! Would you look at that? I was wrong. But now, okay. So I did miss a detail, so it's my fault there, but we don't even need the instructions. Now, as you can see, I actually did not pull out the glass for the windows. And notice how I'm just going to pull those out. I'm just going to twist.
So just gonna pull them off?
Good. I didn't even know that these... Now I'm not going to glue these because if you glue them, you have the risk of actually clouding up the plastic, because the way that super glue cures, it creates this very whitish film. But I think we can pick the engine up now, and we're going to actually, we need to remove the cab, I just noticed. So but we're going to pull up the cab, and yes, the cab does come off on these engines. Slightly pull, gently pull it out, just like that. So yeah, now you'll see that I have the cab. It says 6013, and we're just going to put the bezels in, the lights in, to put the glass in. Takes no more than a minute to do it. Just be very gentle, don't break anything. And I just noticed we have some fluff, and I'm going to just show you. Well, you can't really see because of my fingers, but there you go. And it's going to get locked in place. So let's put that back on the engine. You can put the cab on either way. The cab goes on either way. This is an all-service engine, so... And the doors... Well, no, I got it right. So, just going to check for fit. Boom. So, now we've got that settled. The next thing I'm going to do is just gonna put the bezels in, and then we'll attach the rails, and then this kit will pretty much be done. And then I'll apply like I said, I'll apply the horn in another video off camera, but it won't be in the running shot today. We're going to stick the So the bezels go in very simply. I'm going to have to do a little bit of work onto the other one. As you can see with this one, as you can see, there's a little bit of flash. So we're just going to take the flash off and bezels in. Alright, so now after all that patience, you can see that both bezels are now in, although one side's going to get used. So now allow me to quickly put these in and with a bit of moving, you know what? with a bit of movie magic, we're going to make this engine turn into a detailed model, at least with all the handrails. 3, 2, 1. Well, with that movie magic at hand, we have now completed the customization of PRSL 6013. The only thing we're missing is the horn, but I'll deal with that later. So now, let me put this all together. So for doing this, and another thing I have to tell you, when you're working on these kits or these engines, put Cadies on. Sometimes they don't come with couplers. This one didn't come with any, but I got it covered. So what I'm going to do is, well, first got the engine. We're going to put the weights in it. Going to put your weights in. And with that done, 6013 is now ready to go. What do you say we take this over to the track now and hook it up to 6000 and see if it can pull a nice train? Well, folks, I've got the 6013 on the layout, and in tow is the 6000, and we're going to see if it can pull this 8-car passenger train. Let's go. All aboard.